Good morning, everybody. This is Laura Petersen, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. And to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I wanted to talk to you about the stats today, but I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Usually I talk about Lake, Orange, Osceola, Seminole, and Volusia counties. And this week I'm going to talk about Lake, Orange, Osceola, Polk, and Seminole counties. So switching out Volusia for Polk is kind of what the scoop is. And you're going to find that the number of houses and everything has gone up significantly in regards to what we look at. In the report that we usually look at, there were 415 single-family homes sold. And what I'm going to be talking about this week is 621 sales. So basically, there's a huge difference in including Polk County versus Volusia. There's a lot more going on in regards to that. And with that, the median price is a little bit lower when we're looking at that. Now, in this specific report, it was 414 last week and 400 this week for the median sales price. So that's kind of what the scoop is in regards to how all of that is going to be shaking down and everything like that. But breaking it down, of those 621 that sold, there were 49 that were under 250. 78 between 250 and 300, 178 between 300 and 400, 134 between 400 and 500, 143 between 500 and a million. And then we've got 39 of them that are over a million. So when we're looking at the active listings and everything that we've got out there, there are 7,540. And so when you're looking at the under 250, there are 369 of them that are available. So basically, when it comes down to it, 49 of them is just 1 week of them. And so if you take that times 4, that's roughly 200. So we've got roughly about a month and 3/4 or whatever of inventory is what we're looking at for that under 250 price point. So looking at all of the different markets and all of that, there is plenty of inventory that's out there for everybody to look at and all of that kind of good stuff. The median sales price was $400,000, like I said, and the list to ask price ratio is at 97.13 overall. The unusual thing is at the under 250s are at 97.21. The 250 to 300s are at 96.66. And then you go up to the 97s and 96.97 again, over a million. So that's kind of what the scoop is there. 79 days is the average days on the market. And the average price per square foot is at $230.69, but it does vary by price point and everything as well, as you can imagine. So looking then at the condos, townhouses, basically what the scoop is on them, that the median sales price on them went from $289 to $279, and the sales went to $134 from $125 the week before. And so looking at the condos, townhomes, and that kind of stuff, like I said, there were 134 of them, and 55 of them were under 250, 21 from 250 to 300, 34 to 300 to 400, 14 from 400 to 500, 10 from 500 to a million, and none over a million sold this week. Now the inventory there is quite a bit higher at 2477 versus 134 that sold. So if you roughly take, I'm going to round it and say it's probably about 500 for the month. So that's going to give us 6 months of inventory or more when you're looking at that. Basically, when 10 sold between 500 and a million, and our inventory is 169. That's not as bad as 14 between 400 and 500 and 288 on the market. And so basically in different price points, we're going to be sitting at a lot more inventory. Basically, the list to ask price ratio on condos is looking at 96% as well. Under 250, it was at 94.48. 250 to 300 was at 92.35. And then the rest of them were in the close to 97, 98 range is kind of where we're at. Days to contract in condos and townhomes is 91 days on the market. Now, one other interesting thing, if you're an investor and looking at leases and what's going on and that kind of stuff, the median price of a single family long-term lease went from 2,200 to 2,300. And basically on condos and townhouses, their long-term lease decreased from 1,900 to 1,825. And that's just for the week. So obviously we've got to look at what's going on long-term and all of that kind of good stuff. But basically when you're coming down to it and looking at what's going on out there in the statistics world, there's a lot of great information and everything that's out there. But when it comes down to it, everything is very local in regards to what's going on. You know, I was talking on the average days on the market and basically looking at this other report that I ran into this week, that for Osceola County, it's 103.96, basically 104 days on the market. When you're looking, and this is for everything, houses in town and condos combined, and Orange County is at 97.65, Seminole is at 74.94, and Lake is 72.26. So you can see that basically there's a lot of, information in regards to what's going on in the different types. Actually, those were all the condos. Now, if I'm looking at the average days on the market for single family homes in Osceola County, they win at 94.62 if you look at it that way. Lake is at 82.96. Orange is at 75.45, and Seminole County is at 65.31. When you're looking at the median price by county, Seminole County is at 507. Orange County is at 489. Osceola County is at 418. And Lake County is at 339. So again, very local in regards to how everything shakes down and what we're looking at when it comes to statistics and what we're looking at. So what I try to do every week is be very consistent in regards to what we are talking about, so that, you know, it's like if you're listening to this week or 2 weeks ago or whatever, and you're listening, you get a good idea in regards to what's happening. Now, the new report did come out, I believe, for last month to kind of get us an idea in regards to the overall month, because normally we're just looking at a week at a time, obviously. And just so you know, just looking at it, February of 25, the interest rate was at 6.69, and today 5.88. So that's the first time that we have been in the fives, actually since September of 29 was about the same thing. Now the inventory was at 12,411 a year ago, and today it's at 11,975. So not too much different year over year. When you're looking at the number of properties under contract, it was at 4,006 and 4,001 right now, so not too much different. Basically, when you're looking at the number of sales that closed in February of 25, it was at 1837, and we're at 1888 February of 26. So again, not a whole lot different in regards to looking at that. Now, the months of supply, basically in February of 24, we were at 2.95. February of 25, we were at 6.7 overall, and we're at 6.34 right now. So a normal market is between 4 and 6. So we're heading into that. Now, when I'm talking about these months of supply, this is everything. So if we split out the condos and the townhouses like we do, then we would find that the single family homes are still in a normal market, but the condos are in a buyer's market. And so that's why I really like to break things down a little bit more and all of that kind of good stuff. Basically, when we're also looking at everything, we already went over the closed sales and the median price. The average price is a little bit different. Well, let's look at the median price. So the median price in February of 24 was 377. The median price in February of 25 was 385, and the median price of in February of 26 was 376. So it's just down a fraction right there from last year, but it's still ahead of February of 24. When we're looking at the median price, it was 448, 291 in 24. 25 was 488,064, and in 26 it's 477.29. So I mean, like what I'm telling you here is a lot of information and probably more stats than you want to know. But if you do want to see these in writing, you can reach out to me at any time, and I'm more than happy to get them to you. And so that's not a problem at all. And basically, when we're looking at if your house, if it's the time to sell or whatever, you have to look at zip codes. You have to look at your specific subdivision and really see what's going on and dig into it. Real estate is really local, but the thing that I like to do in regards to giving you an overall of the area, it kind of tells us the consistency in regards to what's going on. And so you have a really good idea in making the right decision for you and your family. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Petersen, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I was looking at this article the other day that I saw that was actually on someone in Miami that said that they had sold their house just using ChatGPT. And so when we're looking at AI, which is definitely out there in our world, I mean, you can't go anywhere without seeing it. In most cases, if you're online, if you're going to Google, the AI is answering you first, and then the search is below it and everything. And so pretty much anywhere that you go, you're going to run into AI. And it can be good or bad, depending on what your view and everything is of it. I tend to think that it's very good. It can be used in the right way. You definitely have to check it. Many times I'm putting something in and working around it and everything. And then I'm looking at it and I'm like, why did you do this? And it's like, oh, good catch. And I'm like going, what do you mean good catch? I mean, I thought that you were smarter than all of us, but obviously it's not. So it definitely does take the human brain to go beyond it and to challenge it and look at it, but it is very helpful in many circumstances. But there was this article that I was saying that I saw that this guy said, hey, I sold my house with AI, and what I did is I asked it all the questions, like what I needed to do to get my house ready, and it actually told me the color to paint the inside of my house. It told me the description to do and all of those kinds of things, where to advertise it, all of that. And so basically, all of that stuff sounds well and good. And the challenge comes in when you run into the problems. Very few houses go smooth when you're going to sell them. And if And if you're a buyer working on the other side, very few transactions go 100% smooth. There's always some kind of hiccup that we run into in the middle. And I've been selling real estate for over 20 years now, so I could definitely tell you many of the hiccups that we run into and how you get around them. And that's really where the value of who you work with matters. So it's like you could have anybody tell you a lot of these things, and unfortunately you could get somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, and because they're relatively new or they're a part-timer or something like that. And I'm not saying all new and part-timers are bad. I'm just saying they may not have the experience that you need in order to get through these hurdles that you run into. And what the magic number is in regards to when you become an expert and when you know the laws and all that kind of good stuff and just getting started, I don't know what necessarily the difference is. But if somebody has somebody that can back them up, that they can go to and ask questions, then a lot of times when you're new, you can actually get through those hurdles. And that's how I learned. When I was new, I didn't want people to say, oh, she's new and she didn't know what she was doing, because I would always go and find the answers from the people that had them and had access to all of that. And I remember there was a couple that I was working with a few years ago, and they were looking at selling their house, but they were kind of on the waiting zone. What they wanted to do is they wanted to move closer to their son because they were getting older and they knew that they were going to need a little bit more help. So they wanted to be close. They wanted to see the grandkids. They didn't have to want to drive an hour to get to them. They wanted to be, basically available, that their son could help them and that they could see his family and everything as well. And so they were going to do that. So, they decided, okay, well, we're going to wait a few more months because we have a busy season in our business and everything. So we'll just wait. Well, I did hook up with them a few months later, and we did, sell their house. And it ended up that they bought the next door neighbor's house to their son without a realtor. And I said, well, how did it go? And they said, horrible. They said, we'll never, ever, ever do it again. And they said that, it all seemed very, very good, simple, and all of that, that they called, their son knew, obviously, and their neighbor knew that the parents were looking for a place close to them. And so they were going to sell. So they, just talked as neighbors do and said, hey, why don't we sell you our house and sell your house to your parents? And so they all worked it out. They worked out the price. All that kind of stuff seemed great. So it all seemed like it was going well until it didn't. And what they ran into problems with was obviously on the inspection. And so when you ran into problems on the inspection, then you go, okay, what do we do now? Because they were kind of at an impasse, and it was very difficult to work through. I mean, it's an emotional thing because the neighbors know each other, they've been friends and everything. So it's more than a business deal. It's actually going through all of those emotions and everything and putting, stakes and holes in the relationship and everything like that as a result of it, and not knowing how to necessarily navigate through it. And so what happened is that they felt like they were completely ripped off at the end because they gave into some things in order to make it happen, and they didn't know that they handled it right and don't feel like they handled it right, and they think that it could have been done better. And obviously, I think it could have. And my mistake is that I didn't, let them know that, hey, if you do run into this situation, let me know, because I would have helped them through it and all of that, because that's just kind of the person that I am. But basically, when it comes down to it, you want to make sure that you've got the people in your back pocket that can actually help you through it. So if everything goes smooth and all of that kind of stuff, it's not going to be a problem. But when you do run into a roadblock, that's when you need the professional. And I would say 99% of the deals out there that happen in today's market run into some kind of challenge throughout the day. It's like when I put a property under contract, I'm like looking, okay, what am I going to run into down the road, and how can I solve it before this happens? And that's how I look at it, to make sure that we don't run into any roadblocks. And then 99% of the time, I resolve the problem before either the buyer or seller, whoever I'm working with, even finds out about it. And that's just because it's like, that's what you're getting me for, is to make sure that you don't have those headaches, you don't have those ups and downs and all of that as you're going through the process. It's a very emotional process, because you're like, okay, I'm moving, my house is sold, I've got, 30 days to get out, and where am I going to go? And so basically, making sure that everything goes exactly the way that it should, so that there's no problems or hiccups along the way, is a completely understandable thing in regards to what you want to have happen. And basically what has happened traditionally in real estate throughout the years is that you're selling one house and buying another, and usually it's simultaneously. And so you've got to go ahead and make sure that everything happens. But when there is a roadblock in it, it's like a domino effect, that it can actually, happen to your house and the next house down the road and all of that kind of thing in regards to what happens. And you're going, oh my goodness, what do I want to do? How am I going to resolve this issue? So I just want everyone to know out there, and I'm going to cover it after the break, but basically there are options today that you don't have to do that stuff simultaneously, and you can take a lot of pressure off. And so there are those options. We definitely have them available, and I'll talk about those after the break in regards to what you can do. But to finish this up, AI is great. You can use it and everything, but we're not to the point with AI where we can eliminate the human. And I think that that's really what the point of AI is, what you hear more and more stories and that kind of thing, that it's there to enhance and help and all of that kind of stuff, just like computers and everything, that they're there to help us do things faster and all of that kind of stuff, but they're not going to replace us. And so that's the great news. Maybe they're going to replace a couple of things, but there's always other things to do, which is always great. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we will see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Petersen, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I wanted to talk about today, I talked a little bit and hinted in the last segment that basically one of the issues when you go to sell your house or buy another one or anything is that a lot of times it's a simultaneous closing, meaning that you've got to sell one house and close on the next house many times at the same time. And that is extremely stressful for anybody that's going out there and doing it, because you're going, okay, what am I going to do with my stuff if the house I'm moving into can't close on the same day? And how do I possibly move all my stuff out, go sign the documents on one place, go sign the documents on the other place, and move into the new place all in the same day? It's a lot, and it is very stressful. So there are opportunities today to do different things that you don't have to do it that way, depending on what your comfortability is in regards to what you want to do. One thing that you can do today is that you can actually get a bridge loan, kind of is basically what it would be called in the old days, but basically that you can get a new loan on a new property without selling your old property first. Now you go, wow, how do they do that? So the way that they do that is that they actually, it's a lot of time lenders that want to do this because they want the loan on the new property. So basically what they'll do is they'll actually give you a loan on a new property, and then they will back up the sale of your old property with an offer that is going to, that your property is going to be sold. So it's in a period of time that's after the the closing date of the new house. So what you can do is that you can actually move into your new house, have everything all out of your old house and everything, and then put it on the market. And if your property doesn't sell in a specific period of time, which might be, usually it's about 3 or 4 months, then basically what they do is that you already have an offer from a company that's actually going to buy your house, and you knew what that price was all along. You were totally happy with it and everything like that. And so basically that is kind of one situation and one scenario of what you could do. Another scenario in regards to what you could do is you can take the equity out of your old house and put it into a new house and get a new loan on that. Again, you've got to have an offer on your old house in order to do that, because your ratios are probably going to be off if you've got both loans going at the same time. So you've got a similar situation there. Then another situation that we have is that we actually have a company that will come in. Well, we have several companies that'll come in that will buy your home at market value, and you can actually, lease it back until the time that you want to move into a new house. So this program I find works really good for somebody who's buying a new home, because you can go ahead and take advantage of the market today, sell it, but then you can rent back your current residence until it's time to move into the new one, and then go ahead and you've already had gotten all your money out of it and all of that kind of stuff. So basically, when it comes down to it, these are just a couple of different programs that are out there that we have to solve that dilemma of having to buy and sell on the same day. It makes it really stressful for a lot of people to do that. And so we've come up with ways that you can avoid that. And, then there are different ways that you can actually sell your house and know that it's going to be sold even before you put it on the market. And most people think, oh my gosh, I'm just going to give up so much equity in order to do that. And you would be surprised at how much equity that you do not give up in order to do that. Basically, we have some companies that do a two-step program, which basically means that they come in, they buy your house at, say, 80 to 90% of the value right now. And so you get that 80 to 90% right now. You don't have any other loan on it or anything like that. You can pick the day, all that kind of good stuff. And then they might do a couple of things to it, which are discussed with you even before you agree to this program to begin with. So maybe it needs paint, carpet, whatever it might need. And so basically any repairs that are going to be done, that's all discussed way before you agree to this deal. So they do all that. And then they come in and we put your house on the market after you've moved out, and then you get that additional 10 or 20%, whatever it is. And if it sells for more than that, you actually get that additional money. And if it sells for a little bit less, obviously you're going to get a little bit less money, but you are in control. You agree with all of that stuff up front. You know what the price is going to be, that it's going to be marketed at. You know what the price reductions are going to be. So everything is spelled out at the very beginning, and it just makes the process go smoother. And you would be surprised how low the fees are to do that. Of course, there's a couple percent that happens for that company that they actually are buying it, but that's basically where it ends, and you know very clearly what it is. And the way that you have to look at it is that you look at it like when you are selling a car. And I know I've used this example before, but basically when you're selling a car and you're buying a new car, probably is more what you're doing. And you make that decision. You go, okay, I'm going to take my car into the dealer, see what they're going to give me for it and what I can knock off of that current car in regards to that new car, or I'm going to try to sell it on my own, and then I have to go to the DMV and make sure that the license is all transferred to the next person, that the sales tax is handled properly, and all of that kind of stuff. And some people enjoy doing that stuff, but a lot of people don't. So they will go to a dealer and avoid all of the hassles and just turn in that car and drive off with a new one. And so I know I've done that many times, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have as well. And so as a result of that, you know that you could have gotten a little bit more if you would have sold the car on your own, but you know that there are a lot of hassles and a lot of things that go with it as well. So you choose to go to that dealer. It's the same thing with houses. It's available today, and it's not just one company. It's multiple companies. So you have multiple companies to choose from to do that, and multiple situations and multiple ways of working around it. So I'm here today to let you know that it's available. We have it. If we can put in any address that is here in this area, and we can get 14 offers immediately. And so in this market, when the market is slow, that might be your best option. It might be the thing that you want to do, and maybe it's not. But you know what? It doesn't hurt to always ask and to look at it and to see if it's the best situation for you and your family. And I think that that's really important in looking things over. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Good morning, everybody. This is Laura Petersen, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I wanted to go over today one of the things that surprises people when they buy houses are costly surprises at times, and they can be avoided. And I think that you need to look at the whole big picture and everything. So basically, when people are looking at move-in readies, or they think, hey, I'm going to buy a brand new house because I'm not going to have any expenses, you definitely are going to have expenses. So you just need to know that when you're moving into a move-in ready home, what that means to different people is completely different. So if it's a home that is in existence, you definitely want to do inspections, and you want to look at the seller's disclosure, and they're not always 100% accurate, not because the seller, in my opinion, wants to be dishonest. It's just that they don't remember. It depends on how long they live there. If they only live there a couple of years, they should definitely remember all the things that they replaced and when. If they've lived there 20 years, they might not remember exactly what they replaced when and everything, but, they can give you a good idea and that kind of stuff, and be as honest as possible. But there are things that you forget about. It's like life happens, you solve one problem, and then you move on to the next, and you forgot about that one that happened, like 5 or 10 years ago. So basically, the most important thing that I think that anybody can do is that you can have an inspection, because it's going to be an independent third party that's going to come in there, and they're going to look and see what's going on. They're going to be testing the AC. They're going to be looking at the electrical. They're going to be looking at the plumbing and seeing that everything is working, at that point in time. They're going to be looking at the outside to see if there's cracks or problems with the foundation. They're going to be looking at the roof, which is obviously a huge expense as time goes on, and all of those kinds of things. But even when you're buying a new home, inspections are important, because when you're looking at it, basically there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of jobs and that kind of stuff to make that happen. And usually one of the most common things that I find all the time is that when that inspector comes back, it's like, well, the hot and the cold water were switched. The hot water goes on the cold water side, and the cold water's on the hot water side, which is a little thing, but but at the same time can cause a big problem. I was working with a lady not that long ago that she was buying a new house, and they had forgotten to hook up the dishwasher. So when you turned on the dishwasher, the water was going in, everything all okay, but it was coming out all over the kitchen floor because they had forgotten to hook the outgo of the dishwasher to the drain. It was just not hooked up. So obviously it causes problems. So basically when it comes down to it, you definitely want to make sure that all of those things are checked out. But in addition to that, on a move-in new house, you might want to look at and see the blinds or the window treatments and that kind of stuff. When you're looking at a house, and if you're looking at a foreclosed house, which thankfully there's not a lot of them in our market, but a few. So when you're looking at those houses, one of the first things that the bank does is that they take down all the window treatments. They just don't want to be bothered with them and all of that kind of stuff. But guess what? When people come into a house, they want to see how light and bright and everything that it is. That's why we tell you to turn on the lights. And you want to have all the blinds and everything open because people want to see that sunshine coming in. Now, the second that they move into the house, they might be closing all the blinds and all of that kind of stuff. But when they're looking at it, they want to see that it does have nice light and everything, and makes them feel happy when they're there. So basically, when it comes down to it, if you're looking at a house and you're going, oh, this is so light and bright, but then you forget to realize that it doesn't have blinds on the windows or anything like that, then usually, you're going to spend at least $50, if not more, probably $100 or more a window to actually go and put everything on there. So in a normal house, maybe there's probably like 10 to 15 windows. Let's say 15, there's probably 15 to 20. So if it's $100 a window, that's a $1,500 spend that you weren't necessarily counting on. Now, there are some builders that do include the blinds and the window treatments and that kind of stuff. So you just have to make sure that you're looking at those kinds of things to make sure that you're getting exactly what you expected to get. But when it comes down to it, looking at the homes carefully when you're looking at them and all of that is extremely important. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were asking, like, how long does it take to look at a house? Well, I've been with people that within 30 seconds, they can definitely tell it's a house that they don't want. And if that's you and you're looking at that house, then you just need to say, hey, this is not the house for me, and let's move on. Because it doesn't make sense to look at houses for a long period of time that are not going to be the one that you want, and then they're going to cloud your vision in regards to what you really are looking for. So I find that first impressions are really what happens for most people. So it is within that first couple of minutes that they decide that it's not for them. If it's a house that they want, it's probably 15 or 20 minutes that they're going to be there. I've been with people that take a lot longer in regards to looking at them that first time. You can always go back and everything and look again. But usually in 10 to 15 minutes, you have a really good idea in regards to if it's something that you want or you don't want. And recently I was out showing some houses with people, and we went and we were going really fast. We were going like in and out because it wasn't the house. But when we did find the house that they wanted, we stayed there a little bit longer, and maybe it was about 20 minutes or so. Went and looked at the rest of them that we were checking out that day. And then we went back to the one that they really liked to look at it again, to make sure that it was the one that they wanted. And I think that that's a really good plan, that you want to go back and you want to look at it again to make sure. And they said, yeah, it's got this that we like and that we like and all of that kind of stuff. And make sure that you don't confuse it with the other houses that you saw that day. And so really it comes down to really making the right decision when you're there to actually look at that particular house. But there's many times when I'm with a buyer and we're just driving up and they're like, no, this is not what I want. I don't want to be that close. I don't want to live in this neighborhood? All of those kinds of things enter into it, obviously, because it is going to be your house. So you definitely want to make sure that you're doing that, but inspections are critical and all of that in regards to what's going on. And then negotiating through it is obviously important as well. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we look forward to talking to you next week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.